Donald Trump has been more panicked in the past week than maybe at any other point in his political career because he sees everyone abandoning him as the Epstein scandal ruins his term. Not only is the MAGA base fractured, but of course, the biggest backers of Trump in Congress have become his biggest detractors in Congress. And it's not just that. It is the people who have been abandoned by this administration. And Donald Trump, specifically one fired advisor to Donald Trump who has leaked an Epstein text that not only exposes some of the criminality of Donald Trump, but raises suspicions about Epstein's death. We are going to get into it all, especially that text. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into that leaked text, before we see how it is raising new questions about Epstein's death, I want to start with a very, very powerful message. A new video shared by Epstein survivors that I think we all need to take a look at.
I suffered so much pain.
So much pain.
So much pain.
I suffered so much pain. I was 14 years old.
I was 16 years old.
I was 16.
17.
14 years old.
This is me.
This was me. This is me.
When I met Jeffrey Epstein.
This is me when I met Jeffrey Epstein.
There are about 1,000 of us.
It's time to bring the secrets out of the shadows. It's time to shine a light into the darkness.
I don't know how someone like Mike Johnson could hear the stories from these survivors. And Democratic members of Congress have talked about this. The meeting that they had with Mike Johnson and survivors. Them imploring Johnson and congressional Republicans to release the Epstein files. To put pressure on Donald Trump and then to turn your back on these people who have been braver than anyone else fighting for justice. Fighting to have their stories heard, because in some instances, they are so traumatizing that not all, not even they know the extent of their abuse. Is that not disgusting? Is that not devastating, that Mike Johnson has turned his back on these people after pretending to be sympathetic? After pretending to care about their stories, Mike Johnson has completely turned his back on them. But it's no surprise for MAGA. The cruelty is the point for MAGA. If you stand up to their movement, if there is any pushback whatsoever, they want you to feel the pain that comes with your bravery. That is what they want. But they also don't want you to see how panicked they are. Unfortunately, for Donald Trump, it's coming out very clearly. Which is why, when he was asked by a reporter about his Epstein scandal tonight, and what Thomas Massey has been saying, he said this. And after we take a look at the video, I want to see what Trump posted just minutes later. It's important pretext. It's important context for the text we're going to look at.
A smoke screen to block the release of more files? Is that the case?
Well, I don't want to talk about it because fake news like you're a terrible reporter, and fake news like you, they just keep bringing that up to deflect from the tremendous success of the Trump administration. So a guy like Massey, his poll numbers are showing he's at 6% approval rating right now.
Just minutes ago on Truth Social, Donald Trump wrote, as I said, on Friday night aboard Air Force One to the fake news media house, Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. And it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax perpetrated by the radical left lunatics. So Donald Trump is both simultaneously saying that the Epstein files are a hoax and there is nothing in them. But the Epstein files should be released because there's stuff in them that people need to see. And there are Epstein files that have been hidden. What I think Donald Trump is doing right now is pretending like he's going to release these files. Pretending like he wants transparency because the investigation that he has called upon Pam Bondi and the DOJ to carry out might mean that some of these files, which will be under review, will be blocked by courts. And so, Trump can say, well, it's not my fault. I'm just following the law, which of course, Donald Trump never is, and he's always breaking it. But this will be another layer of the cover-up. But what makes the cover-up so clear is this text that was shared by Steve Bannon between him and Epstein about Donald Trump. 2 weeks before he's arrested, Epstein texts Steve Bannon. Now you can understand why Trump wakes up in the middle of the night sweating when he hears you and I are friends. Earlier this month, Steve Bannon said, if we lose the midterms and we lose 2028, some in this room are going to prison, myself included, at a Republican conference. So Jeffrey Epstein and Steve Bannon, who was fired from his position in the White House in the Trump administration, they both acknowledged that Donald Trump is very worried about their friendship, very worried about the information that Epstein could share about their past. And of course, it was Steve Bannon who was working with Epstein to rehabilitate his image to change the public's perception of him, and has hours of video footage that he hasn't shared, that he said he would, that he hasn't yet. And now, Steve Bannon is saying that if Democrats take over, if Democrats have the power to release the full Epstein files, it could mean Republicans going to prison. So is that part of the normal criminal activity they engaged with Jeffrey Epstein, or is that also part of the cover-up? The reason they would be going to prison? Because I don't know at this point. All I know is what this text shows is that Steve Bannon was well aware of how terrified Donald Trump was of any more evidence coming out about he and Jeffrey Epstein having a criminal relationship. That is, what is clear tonight is that Steve Bannon was well aware of that. And Donald Trump was terrified. Was it a reason he broke ties with Bannon? Was it a reason that he had Epstein at Thanksgiving dinner, allegedly at Mar-a-Lago? I don't know. But again, all of these questions need to be answered with the release of the files, which is why it is so important. We are getting an update from Congressman Robert Garcia right here.
The American public is all now lining up to fight to ensure that the release of the files actually happens. And he's doing everything that he can to intimidate, to politicize and weaponize the government, to stop the files from being released. I mean, this last week, we were able, of course, to get out really important documents and information about the relationship between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Some of those documents, read them for yourself, I think are quite disturbing. They're quite damning. There are definitely connections there. And I think the one thing that has become crystal clear this week is that this is a White House cover-up and that Donald Trump is absolutely hiding something.
And this is the interesting part, right? We don't know from the documents that were released what legal culpability in this matter Donald Trump had. It wasn't clear enough to make that determination. But what's the cover-up for? What is this now? This was a MAGA-fueled thing to say that this was a Democratic problem and let's get these files out. Donald Trump said he would. His FBI deputy director and his FBI director were all on the same team on this one. They were all going to get these files out, and now suddenly there's nothing to see here.
That's exactly right. You can't spend your entire campaign, have your vice presidential nominee do the same, have the entire MAGAverse saying want to release the files, and then, as we remember, they tried to actually fake a release with a bunch of far-right influencers that went nowhere. Then Donald Trump says, oh, wait, there's actually nothing there. This is over. The reality is this. We've been successful as Democrats to essentially fight to get these other documents released. They haven't come from the government. They've come from the Epstein estate because we've been successful in forcing some subpoena votes at the Oversight Committee. But now we know that what's in the DOJ dwarfs what we've already received from the estate. For us to solve this case, for us to solve and get justice for these women and these survivors who were in many cases girls and children when they were raped and abused, we have to get access to the full Epstein files at the DOJ. They are under subpoena right now from our committee. They've been unresponsive, and now they're forcing the entire Congress to take this vote. It's going to pass with substantial numbers, and they have to release the files.
So let's talk about this. You've been working with a number of Republicans, including Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie. Donald Trump said some nasty stuff about Massie last night. The White House put the screws to Lauren Boebert the other day. But the bottom line is there is this sense that if you're not the 218th vote, like Adelita Grijalva was, and you're a Republican, you may have no choice but to vote for this thing, what Congressman Swalwell referred to as a jailbreak.
I think that's right. I mean, look, you've already seen in the last couple of days, there have been Republicans that have come out publicly and said, I'm going to vote for this. And this is on top of the handful that actually joined Thomas Massie.
Yeah, like Don Bacon said that.
John Bacon, Kevin Kiley. I mean, you're hearing that.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that privately from other Republicans as well. So I do think we're going to have a significant group. Now, what kind of pressure is Donald Trump going to try to put on these members? What kind of operation will the White House try to implement? It was not successful last week. But to take a member to the Situation Room with the director of the FBI and the lead of the Department of Justice to try to intimidate them to release and remove their name from this effort is insane. I mean, that just does not happen. And so the question, again, I think is really clear.
What's this all for?
What the hell is being hid by the White House?
Tell me how this works, by the way. This is called a discharge petition, which means it's not like a normal bill that has to go through party leadership and wait for vote. If a discharge petition passes in the House, Mike Johnson has no say in what happens next. But what does happen next? Is this a bill? Does it go to the Senate? Does it go to the president for signature? Can he choose not to say? What's the process?
The process is exactly like a bill. So essentially, the House is now forcing the vote. It has to actually happen. The Speaker can't stop a vote. The vote will likely happen this week. We expect a good number of Republicans to vote yes. That bill will then move on to the Senate, and the Senate will then take up this bill. It's important for us to get as many Republicans as possible so that the Senate understands that it's bipartisan and that the country wants this vote. And then the pressure will then move on to the U.S. Senate. They're going to have to vote this thing, get it through, and then it goes to the president. And the question becomes, is the president once again becomes the one man in the country that can sign that bill or choose to release the files immediately and bring justice for these survivors.
I am so glad that we have had Democrats like Robert Garcia, like Rokana people fighting constantly for the release of these files. We have desperately needed that type of leadership. I'm glad we have it. We're going to continue to talk about Uplift and share the messages that they are putting out. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. Leave a like on this video. If you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.